Hello and welcome to another episode of the Screen Chronicles. I'm Steve, and with me, as always, is Ribsky Biscuit. And today we are talking Season 5, Episode 8 of The Last Kingdom. What do you think of that, Ribsky? What do you think?
Thank you for using my given name at birth. I've only recently changed it to Colby.
You mean Colbstone? Colbstone,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. What did you ask me?
So today we are talking about Season 5, Episode 8 of The Last Kingdom. We are almost at the end. We're going to give you a little brief little score at the beginning, some our non-spoilery thoughts. It's going to be so brief, you're going to roll your ankle, and then we're going to get into some spoiler talk, recapping it, breaking down all the Ethels and why the Ethels and Ethels are looking
and
at
the helms
this kingdom, and the helms. And
don't forget about the helms. Mm-hmm.
And why they're doing what they're doing. And then we're going to get into our best bro moments and our best moments. And you're going to just be so satisfied. You'll be like, But Rimsky, what did you think?
This was a political episode.
Yes.
This was a political episode. It was not one of my favorites from the season, but it was not bad.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a good sort of transition episode. Last time we called the last episode a transition episode. This is also sort of transitioning, like you said, into possibly going to Bebbanburg, which is sort of the talk of the episode a little bit. You know, we kind of got the inkling last episode. But there's some pretty awesome political moments in this episode. So I'm going to rate this one probably lower than some of the other episodes this season. And I think that's fair because it is a slower episode. So yeah, I'm going like 7 out of 10 on this one.
I'm gonna just chop you right at the knees, and I'm going 7.5.
God damn, bro.
Because again, there are some moments where I was Ethelhelm to me is still in the show with a few things.
Oh yeah.
In a few moments here, and we'll talk about that. But so I mean, but yeah, it was definitely slower. This was definitely another one, where I was checking my phone a few times. That's something, with the first like 3 seasons of The Last Kingdom, first 4 episodes of season 4, like you just didn't do it. But it was nowhere near, I keep shitting on episode 5 of season 4, but it was definitely nowhere near that level for me, because there was still a lot of hints at where we were going. There was a little bit of taste, like here you go, you're gonna get this. So it was still better than, I think I gave that one like a 5 or something,
right?
Back then. So I mean, it was still more enjoyable than that because of some character moments and some revelations,
and what other cool little small moments I liked,
like where we're going. Like they're like, hey, this is what's gonna happen. I was a tiny bit disappointed that this is the last season, and like this is in one of the 3 last episodes of the show. I was like I don't know, I want more bro moments, I want more battles, things like that, but it was generally a pretty solid episode.
I'd say this episode lived on really good acting. Really good acting. And it was. So I say, without any further ado, let's get into it. Spoiler alert. Also, everybody, please let us know your thoughts of this episode. What did you like? Is there anything you didn't like? What were your favorite moments? What were your favorite bro moments? We love reading those. Let's get into this.
Make sure you like, subscribe, and follows, and check us out on social media. All the links down below. Spoiler alert. Let's get to it.
So this episode starts where Uhtred is still, he's burning Brida's body, and you see the sword and the flames, and the weeds throw out one more Brida flashback. Last episode, he was beating the flashbacks out of Brida.
No, he's burning them out.
I know, and there's just a few more that just jump out at him, and like just the ghost of Brida. But what I love about this little moment where he's burning Brida's body is the classic Eivor music.
I was gonna say that was big for me. Was the music was just so like, we've heard it obviously multiple times since then, but it was definitely like season 1, season 3. Well, it was in season 2, like the emotional moments after slavery and things like that.
Yeah.
So, like that definitely pulls on the member berries and the heartstrings.
What I love about this moment too is that memory comes back to him, and it's a memory of like Brida when it was a good memory. I think they were younger, and I think that's how he's going to remember her. I think he's going to remember a lot of the good stuff. And he looks, and there's a deer looking at him, and it looks at him and it just walks away. And he kind of just has this moment. What's that?
It was just like, there's, I don't know, just the way you were telling it to, it was like, it looks at him, it just walks away.
And it just, but he has this moment like, okay, that's sort of a sign, or is that, I've heard a lot of stories, at least, about when a loved one passes and all of a sudden, an animal or something that you've never seen in your yard or comes by like the next day. Or I've heard stories of like a loved one passed away and the next day a cat shows up out of nowhere and just wants to stay with them. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stories like that. And I feel like that was a moment for him.
Yeah, Danes, this is like a sign. If you remember, like, when Ragnar, when they thought they got him to Valhalla again, sort of the light started coming through the trees. There was a rainbow. So I mean, like, to him, that was a sign.
And it's one of those classic Last Kingdom signs where it's like, okay, in their eyes, it's the gods, right? It's in their eyes, that's totally the gods. But
it's also like, this is
a
big
deer,
field, and there's
a deer walk by in this field that nobody's been to Loitus. Nobody went and re-inhabited that where Ragnar's hall was.
I bet you there's a Ragnar ghost just like on fire going around there.
If there was just a Ragnar ghost, that'd have been amazing.
How great would that have been if we did get like a Ragnar ghost, like Obi-Wan moment with Uhtred? Uhtred and Luke. I mean, not Uhtred and Luke. Luke and Obi-Wan.
He'd have to be like on mushrooms or super sick to make that like plausible in The Last King, like with Leofric, which they kind of did with Leofric, which was amazing the way they did that. And Uhtred was sort of hallucinating because he was sick in season 3. But yeah, I would have loved that. Like, it's just a moment with Ragnar the Fearless.
Yeah, Ragnar the Elder, or even Ragnar the Younger, his brother. That would have been awesome.
That would have been cool. Having Peter Gensler come back. He played such a cool Viking in season 1 in the first episode. He was awesome. I would have liked that, but I think you'd have had to do something weird to make it plausible in the Last Kingdom world.
And then
otherwise it'd have been too.
It might have took away from, because then Stiora comes and they have a moment where she's like, you and she, I mean, I think we say this all the time, destiny is all, and she literally goes, destiny isn't all. I don't even. She says, I no
longer believe in destiny, and Uhtred's like, Uhtred starts short circuiting. Like,
does not compute. That
does not compute with Uhtred. That's like the worst thing you could say to Uhtred. Destiny is not all. What?
He's like, that doesn't.
Blasphemy.
You don't even make sense right now.
Blasphemous. That is blasphemous. But look, Stiora is like, look where your destiny, has gotten you. You're just like,
you kill all the Danes.
You're a plaything of the Saxons. She's like, what your destiny has brought me is pain and grief. So I get where she's coming from. But Uhtred's just like, what?
Yeah. And she rides off. It was a sweet shot too, like where the horses are running by him as they're going away, and he's just standing still. That was a pretty sweet shot.
She makes a good point too. She's like, so you were going to save her, but you couldn't stand up more for Sigtrygr? Which he tried. I mean, Uhtred tried. It's not the same situation, but she kind of, from her point of view, she makes a good point. Like, you so easily forgive her. Now, it wasn't Uhtred who wanted Sigtrygr to die, but still.
Yeah.
Stiora is rightfully upset, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I would have been too, in that moment too. And again, that's the person she loves, the Sigtrygr. And then Uhtred loved Brita at one point. And, and like I said this before, like, I think he sees where she's coming from as far as she went back with the Danes because the Saxons were mean to her.
Right.
She didn't want to take the same shit that Uhtred was taking. And she went back, and then they beat her a bunch of times. Uhtred was one of the people that beat her a bunch of times. And then she loves Ragnar. Ragnar ends up getting killed. And then it turns out Canute, who she loved next, who got her pregnant, was in on it. And then he dies, and then she's captured into slavery, and Saxons and blood betrayals. And so, I mean, like, she's pretty.
Get over it. Brita. Like, we all have issues. No.
Yeah, but like, I can see where she's coming from with that.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I think he does. I think that's what I'm getting at here. Is I think Uhtred recognizes like, life has really fucked over Brita in a lot of ways. So like
Totally agree.
like I think she's not handling her circumstances well, but like there's definitely a lot of really shitty circumstances that have sort of pushed her to this perspective. You know what I mean?
Also, yeah, and I don't know if Steora truly understands the depth of Uhtred's love for Brita.
No.
And even in the books, I think when Steora first meets Brita, like she doesn't know much about their history, Uhtred and her history.
Yeah.
And like he has to like, explain it to her a little bit. She's like, "Who is that?" Like, what? There's a lot she doesn't understand about that relationship. That because she hasn't seen seasons 1 through 3, 1 through 4.
No, she was a baby in season 2. So I mean,
so she completely missed season 1.
She completely missed season 1.
She doesn't get those.
She didn't watch it, and I don't know if Netflix, because it was on BBC first. So when she was in season 2, it was on BBC. So like, if she missed the weekly releases, I mean, you're fucked. And
so, Alfred probably had some sort of propaganda. Honestly.
Oh yeah, there was one station in Alfred's camp, and it was church. It was church station.
That's the beginning of the episode. We then cut to Bebbanburg, actually, and Ethelhelm has been given a nice seaside view suite up above the cliff, and so he's enjoying his nice room in Bebbanburg.
Yeah,
and and I have to say, Ethelhelm seems to have come into Bebbanburg and just like taken over.
Yeah.
Like he's sitting at the head of the table. I think later in the episode, like Whitgar, who should be probably at the head of the table since he is Whitgar of Bebbanburg, has been now pushed to the middle of the table. So I was like, wow, that happened quick. Now I understand like Constantine was like, make sure he feels you treat him really well because he's promised me a lot, but like he's giving him the head of the table. That's interesting.
Yeah, and that's one thing too. I didn't really like in this one is, we talked about in the last one, is Whitgar he's not getting this like I'm the boss feeling that like I had in season 4. Like he took that shit from his dad and from Uhtred. He's like, this is mine now. I'm the boss. And now he's like, here's Ethelhelm. Again, love Adrian Schiller, love what he's doing with Ethelhelm in this. It's so like funny and witty and
he's awesome.
Great. But it's also like, I want Whitgar to be menacing. This is the guy like I want to hate. He killed Bianca, but like right now I'm just like, I want you to tell this guy off.
I think it is super fitting of Ethelhelm to just take that seat without even asking, probably. Like that's very fitting of him. But I agree. I thought there would be more like, what the hell are you doing in my seat, Ethelhelm? This is my house. Not so much. He's annoyed. Whitgar's annoyed, and he goes up to Ethelhelm's quarters and tells him, you have guests. And Ethelhelm's just like, not now. And Whitgar is like, well, I'm telling you to.
He's like, I'm not your lackey. So like, I'm not going to run and tell them this message. And then all of a sudden Ethelhelm's like, I'm ready. Like trying to make it seem like it's like he made up his mind.
Yeah, because he says it's Aelford is here.
But before he even said that, it was Aelford. I think he said that. And he's like, who is it?
And he's like, why did you not tell me sooner?
Aelford gets there. They say, hey, let's have a mission together to make you the best.
Yeah, because Aelford told him about how Iagdafu is now pregnant.
You know what, too?
He says, like, oh, Edward's got a really strong seed. It's going to be a boy.
I know. I love that compliment. He's like, your father has such a strong seed. He's going to be boy. That strong seed of his. I was like, oh, okay, Ethelhelm. All right. Give credit where credit's due, I guess. Okay.
Yeah. Respect is respect, right?
Respect is respect. Then also, too, like this moment, too, I was just like, Ethelhelm, you dick. Like, he's just like, I'm willing to bet your father might have even been involved in your mother dying. And it's just like, dude, like, that was you. Like, that was literally you. Like, you could keep it on the Danes at least, you dick. But like,
Alfred's like, no, it was the Danes.
Yeah, he doesn't buy it. But like, still, it's just like, what a dick for even trying it.
Such a dick. He's so manipulative. And honestly, Adrian Schiller was an absolute thrill to watch this season.
Yeah, no,
I thought he was like truly fun to watch. Anyway, they're at dinner later. And this is when Ethelhelm's at the head of the table and they're talking about their plans and everything. And Benedict stands up and kind of confronts him here. He basically, and Wickar's kind of warning them too about all of Ethelhelm's plan. He's like, he's going to start a war with your dad, to Aelfweard. And Benedict stands up and basically confronts him about the men at Renkova. Ethelhelm is like, each one of them was complicit in my daughter's murder. And Benedict basically ditches. And he kind of says, well, I'm going to go pray or something. I'm going to find a place. But he leaves and he like runs away because Benedict, who, by the way, his debt is paid now, according to Ethelhelm.
And he got some cash too.
He got some extra cash.
Yeah.
He got a tip.
Got a tip.
Twice over.
And
so Benedict is just running off because now he knows the intel here. He knows what the plan is. And even though Benedict is not a good character, you can tell he is not on board with this. And like, this is not something he can just brush aside, which I believe later in the episode, he says that, like, even though like this might get him in trouble for treachery because he took Aelfweard there, like the threat is too much that he has to tell Edward what's going on.
It's funny later when he shows up and he tells Aldhelm the news. And Aldhelm's like, "Oh, you're a traitor. We're gonna have to lock you up." Traitor.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it. He literally brought, according to Edward's eyes, Edward's heir to the enemy.
Yeah. Even
if it is Aelfweard's grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's pretty bad. I think Benedict did the right thing. He absolutely did the right thing.
Aelfwine gets brought by the guy who escaped from Edith and Aelswith when Brezel was killed. He brings her up and he's like, sorry, Brezel died. And then like Aelfwine is looking at Ethelhelm for a reaction like, ooh, yeah, isn't that great? One of your guys is dead. And Ethelhelm's like, people I like don't die so easily.
Yeah.
This dude stopped you from killing yourself, you douche.
Yeah.
You douche bag.
You can tell it upsets him though that Brezel's gone, because Brezel was a strong tool for him to have.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was kind of interesting. But
that was interesting. Another moment with Ethelhelm and Aelfweard later too is Ethelhelm's like talking to Aelfweard down in the hall at Bebbanburg, and he's like, "You're going to be mentioned among Charlemagne," which I thought was kind of funny because Aelfweard's just been kind of derpy this whole season.
I know, he's just kind of like going along with it.
Kind of poor kid.
I know.
Poor kid, honestly.
He's not a bad kid at all.
No, he's not.
His grandpap's a dick and he listens to him, because
he's neglected by his dad. And Wickgar and his right-hand man are up on top overlooking this, and they're like, is he drunk? Like, what is he saying right now?
And they even like shit talk, like not even trying to hide it at all. They're just like talking really loud so they can hear them just right below.
Yeah, and then like they're looking at them at the end too. Like they can all hear each other. Like nobody went to a private room.
They get that. Edwards ends up hearing that Ethelhelm is up there, and he has Aelfweard, and now and later he finds out they have Aelfwine, and he's like I'm not biting into this trap. Ethelhelm wants me to come up there, and then I'm gonna get made fun of because I'm following him again. And I just don't want to get made fun of anymore. I don't want to be season 4 Edward anymore. I'm season 5 Edward. Season 5 Edward is cool.
Yeah. I want to be season 5 Edward continued. I don't want to go back to season
We're not going
4.
back. We're not going
back. I like the line too. And I think Eadgifu's trying to calm him down. And he's like, do not dilute my anger. Let me be pissed about this.
Do not dilute my anger. Diluting it.
And he's concerned though, because he's like you just said, he does not want to be humiliated by Ethelhelm again. And he says something like, I thought I'd mastered these things, but now Ethelhelm again is under my skin. He's still doing this. And he's humiliated by the betrayal of his son. And he still is cool Edward though, because he says he understands he's not thinking clearly. And he said, like, this moment is challenging my pride and I must think clearly. So that's a huge difference between season 4 and season 5, where season 4, he would have just acted immediately, where he still needs to calm down. Yeah. He even says, like, maybe I should just give up Aelfweard. That's a tough talk, I think, because it's his son. It is his son.
Yeah.
And Eadgifu kind of is like sort of nudging him in that direction, like, because she's like, well, my baby could be your heir now.
But she's also like, I wouldn't ask you to just disregard your son just because of
Yeah.
mine, though. Like, she's still being supportive, but yeah, she's also like, well, like, we already have one. Like, oh,
Yeah. Like, here's another option. Just saying.
just back up.
Just a backup. And he's kind of debating, like, well, if I don't, do anything, he lives, or if I don't like retrieve him, he might just be a threat for the rest of my life. Like, he's got things to think about, and he's considering all options. So it's cool. Ultimately, he's thinking, like, if I don't lay into this trap, if I do not play like Ethelhelm's game, then he cannot win.
Yeah. One thing too is Aelswith and Edith show back up, and they're the ones who tell him that Elfwin is taken.
And that complicates things.
That's what complicates things. But it was funny too. This was a great scene when the two of them meet Iagathu, his now betrothed.
Love this scene.
And Iagathu's like trying to be nice to Edward's mom, Aelswith. She's like, hey, rest your bones. I'm sure you're tired from, and like hinting at being old, because and Aelswith's like, I'm tired. My bones are sore. And she's like, from killing a man with my bare hands. And he just like, well, you had a knife. And she's like, I wasn't wearing gloves. It was my bare.
I wasn't wearing gloves.
And I like too, but like before that, she was like, when she was telling them the news, she's like, one of them did not escape my wrath.
Yeah.
Like,
she literally is like, I would kneel, but my knees are stiff from slaughtering a man with my bare hands. Without any gloves.
No gloves.
Which reminds me of that old SpongeBob line. I had a bowl of nails for breakfast without any milk. And I love too, before they go and meet Aelswith, Edward and Eadgifu are talking in the chamber, and I think Aldhelm comes in and says something to Edward, and he's like, okay, we must prepare for another attack. She's like, what? It's my mother. I was like, that's funny.
That is funny.
And this is a cool moment, though, because when Edward's like, Mom, I want you to meet, and Aelswith, I do not care what whore you're with today, or something like that. My wife.
Sorry.
And your future grandchild. And Aelswith just switches because, like, she wants all that.
Yeah, she wants all that. She's like, well, okay, if you're being responsible, okay.
Yeah. But she's always emphasizing the part, like, at least one did not survive my wrath.
My wrath. That was a great scene. Again, I was hoping originally that we were going to get a Finnan versus Brezel just showdown brawl, but it was kind of great. She did that, and then it was funny. I mean, that was probably one of the funniest moments from the season, I would say.
I would say so. Yeah. I would agree. And the Last Kingdom is always kind of sprinkled in humor throughout, and so this felt like classic Last Kingdom humor.
Yeah, it felt kind of, to me, a little different than Last Kingdom humor, honestly. It felt kind of more like more modern sort of humor, like from like something. Yeah, it felt different. I mean, it's still like it fit in, like it didn't take me out of it, but like it definitely felt different than like when Finnan like walked up on Pure Leg and put the sword,
that was
and
classic
like
Last
pissing on, like, that's Last Kingdom. You know what I mean? Also, too, mentioning back, because she's taken a Bember, Elfwin is with Ethelhelm eating dinner, and he's basically telling her what she's gonna do, and she's like, well, I'm just gonna jump off the tower. And Ethelhelm's like, I don't really give a shit, do that.
He says, do it. Then do it.
Do it, bitch.
He says, he's like, do it. Go ahead. You won't. Like, he's totally
like, then I'll find
Lord.
Some other way to get them invested.
Sith Lord. We say it every episode, and that's great, by the way. That's not a bad thing. But he's turned Sith Lord.
I know.
Then do it. So,
do it.
But also, I love how he's just dissing the food too.
I know.
Just
he's like,
dissing the
sorry,
food.
This must be the best they have.
Yeah, sorry, you have to eat this food. And Wickar's like, what? What?
This is like their best dinner here in Northumbria. This is like the best we got.
Wicker's like, that's uncalled for, dude. He also he's like, we have a husband for you. He's a king. And she immediately looks at Aelfwerd. And he's like, not him.
That's your cousin.
And he makes a joke about like how like too much inbreeding or something like leads to weak lines or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Look at him knowing genetics. Look at him knowing the genetics here. Got to keep that genetic diversity going on.
Yeah. And Aelfwin kind of looks at Aelford like, well, like, how can you be part of this? I mean, that's her cousin, right? So, and he's like, it is not me who has been disloyal to my family. It is my family who's been disloyal to me. And again, from Aelford's point of view, I can kind of see where he's coming from.
I think that's pretty much all that happens there in Bebbanburg with Ethelhelm and them. Like we said, Benedict rides back. He tells them, and this was a great moment because earlier in the episode, after Uhtred gets back, he breaks the news to his son. He's like, hey, I didn't kill her, but Siora did. And he's like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do now. Like, I've got like nothing going on for me. Like the Breda mission is over. I don't know. So, I haven't been watching the other scenes that I'm not in, so I don't know that there's this Bebbanburg subplot that's going on. He's just
he had met with the boys earlier, right, at the bar, and told them, he's like, guys, let's go back to Rumkova, I guess. And
they were like, nah. They're like, that's like the first half of season 5.
Yeah.
They're like usually a season split into 2 books, and like that was like the first book of this.
And I love how exactly. I love how they're all trying to talk him out of it, but ultimately they're like, look, we will go with you because you're Uhtred and we love you, but like, please, we beg you to not do this.
And these were the moments that I was liking because, like, again, they don't know the whole Bebbanburg thing. There's just teasing, asking for them to come there. But like at the same time, Uhtred's like, I need somewhere for my daughter to grow up. Yeah. I need somewhere for my men to go.
Her grow up, but also heal because she has like nowhere to go now, and he knows how broken she is.
And he's like, I need a new mission. Like,
and he even asks Edith
all these things that are like he needs for him to do, and it's like Bember.
Yeah. It's just like everything's coming. You know, all 5 seasons are lining up to this moment when he can just go back. He even like tells Edith about Steor, like she needs a home. Again, teasing like, I need to get somewhere for her to be. And also Edward's like, well, maybe you could help us take Aelfwin back. And he's like, how can I give myself for that? And they don't know where Aelfwin is, by the way.
Yeah.
They don't know where Aelfwin is. And they're trying to like convince Uhtred. Edward wants him, help me get Aelfwin back. And he's like, how can I give myself to Aelfwin when my daughter needs me now? And so he's like, no, I'm not going to help. Yeah. And then what does Benedict say?
Benedict rides up. And I just love this moment because he's like telling him Ethelhelm has Aelfwin, they're doing this, blah, 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 blah. And Adam's like, all right, well, like, I've got to arrest you because this is treason. Yeah. He's like, well, where was that? Where are they at, too?
By the way,
where is this? He's like, oh, some little fortress no one ever talks about up north. Bebbanburg.
Uhtred just like, what?
Huh?
Uhtred went from going like, no, I will not do it. I'm not helping you get Aelfwin. I'll not help you get Aelfwin. When do you want to leave? No, that's not true. That's
son
not
of a bitch. I'm in.
That's not true though. Uhtred is not like immediately on board, but he does go like turn his head like, oh crap, they're at Bebbanburg. And he's like, I want to go to Bebbanburg, but he's also sort of like, is that arrogant of me? He has like a great talk with Purelig, like, is it just selfish for me to help just because to get
Bebbanburg my back? Bro moment of the episode here is Father Purelig and Uhtred together. You know, I miss Biaka. I miss the Ian Hart, Alexander Draymond, Adre moments together. Because I feel like this went differently than it would have if it was like Biaka's character. Like it's
totally
like there's like a different sort of relationship the two of them have. But it was still like one of those moments, and it was really good. It was just like they were talking about sort of like faith and religion, and like you could tell Purelig here is like still trying to like get Uhtred back, and he's like, nope, gods plural, and
and he's like, only gods.
God, he's like, all right, fine. He's like, let's maybe like let's agree on this, but he's like he's pretty much like putting in his head like here's right, like all this stuff is setting up, you know, for the finale of the season. I mean, for you to like have all your goals met.
Look, dude, there's only 2 episodes after this one. Everything's coming together. Yeah, and I like too how like Uhtred literally tells him like Ethelhelm is attacking from Bebbanburg, and Purlig's like, that's hilarious. Like literally, like who would have thought Ethelhelm would have Bebbanburg, like your place?
Yeah,
and you'd be attacking him there. But he literally is like, that's funny. Like,
He was like, that's funny.
and again, Uhtred's sort of like, am I having to choose between my own kids and Edward's kids? And Purlig's like, no, like, it's not that you're choosing between them. It's just that it's the way you're looking at it. And like you said, they go into faith. They talk about God having a sense of humor.
That was kind of like a theme so far this show too. I mean, with Aelswith and when Ethelfled died, and with God, and in this moment here, just kind of like, destiny is all God, that sort of fate's thing or whatever. And then with Purlig and Brita. So like a lot of those kind of moments this season, I thought was kind of interesting. Sort of like setting up, I guess, kind of like your purpose, identity sort of thing going on. So. I really liked this talk. I really liked it.
Me too.
To me, like a classic Last Kingdom moment here.
Yeah. And I'm glad Uhtred didn't just immediately jump on board and like, okay, let's go to Bebbanburg. Like it is a decision he needs to make, because Steor is in a bad place. Let's not forget, Uhtred had a major fail last time he tried to take Bebbanburg, and I think that still haunts him.
Right? That's his one loss, I think.
I think that still haunts him. He's toying with that, and is this his destiny? He's trying to, I think he's almost accepted that he's not going to get Bebbanburg before this, and he's like, is this destiny or is it arrogance?
Season 4, he says, I am no longer Uhtred Bebbanburg. He doesn't introduce himself as that anymore, I don't think. Before he even had Bebbanburg before, he would still always say that going on. I'm Uhtred of Bebbanburg. Even like he hadn't been in Bebbanburg since he was 12. He
said, perhaps the gods have made a net, to snare me here. Maybe that's what's happening. And he's like, last time I went to Bebbanburg, Beaka died. I lost Beaka. And he blames himself for that quite a bit, I'm sure. And Purlig, that's where Purlig steps in. And he's like, Beaka died because he believed in your mission. He believed in what, you getting Bebbanburg.
I'm gonna cry.
Steve, grab me. I'm sorry, man. We're gonna take a 5.
But for real, like that was the moment that was like getting me. He was like he wanted you to do this. If anything, this should be telling you that this is the right move to make, because like Beaka was a cool dude and he knew what he was doing, and he wants you to go there.
And I think one of the last lines that sort of like, Uhtred is kind of winning over. He's starting to think, okay, maybe I should do this. And basically he says, Purlig says to him, there's no shame in heaven. And he says, believe that my God is on your side and that you do not walk alone in this. And there's like a pause, and Uhtred like smiles and looks at him and goes, there is no God, only the gods. That moment was cool.
Yeah.
And they both kind of like have a chuckle inside about that one.
I love how they can talk about that without like getting into like an Alfred sort of like scrape, like only I'm right. Like they both respect each other's beliefs, and they're still like trying to convert each other, you know, and they're not giving it ground, but they love each other. Like that was a great moment. That definitely hands down this whole moment here. My bro.
That's your bro moment.
Hands down.
Oh man, I have to find something else now. I don't know if there is.
Well, there is kind of, because then we go. Eventually, Uhtred does make up his mind, and he's like, "Hey, let's do this." I'm like, let's talk to Edward. Let's get this going. There's this really long scene at the end of the episode where it's just everyone is trying to persuade Edward. Aelswith had said earlier, like, I don't understand why Edward like isn't like doing this. Like, I don't understand why he isn't going for like trying to save Elfwin and make these moves. And she's like, I just don't understand why not.
And obviously all the Mercians like Eldhelm are like all for saving Elfwin. That's Ethelfled's daughter.
And like too, she's thinking like you could like take a foothold in Northumbria. Like you've been taking kingdoms this whole season. Like I don't understand why you don't want to now.
So Uhtred goes to Edward, right?
Yeah. And it ends into a really long scene of like all of them trying to persuade him, like the main characters here.
Yeah, it is. And like when Uhtred goes to do that, he's trying to like give him the plan, like, look, let me intercept Constantine. We'll be able to kind of corner Ethelhelm at Bebbanburg, take it, but we need to cut off Constantine. And again, Edward is resistant to all this. He doesn't want to jump into the battle like this. His plan that he says is, I don't really care if Aelfward marries him, right? Because they know the idea now, because Benedict came back and told him.
Yeah.
He's like, what I'll do is I'll just make a deal with Constantine. We'll divide Northumbria, and then we don't have to go to war. It'll be peaceful. And everyone's like, you're going to split the Saxon lands? Like, what? That's insane. But the other cool part about this scene is that like Finan and Citric were sort of mad at Uhtred. They were going to follow Uhtred to Rumcover, but they weren't happy about it. But as soon as they heard that, Bebbanburg could be coming back, all of a sudden there they are behind him. And they're just there for him. And that was another cool bro moment that they just always have his back.
Yeah. And that's what it pretty much turns into, just a pretty prolonged bro moment here where, like you said, Citric, young Uhtred, Finan show up to basically support Uhtred. Of course, they're going to.
Right.
And then everyone just sort of starts taking turns like, I am going to support Uhtred. And they go and they stand next to Uhtred. Like, I think it's Pure League first. And it's like, oh, okay, all right. That makes sense. Pure League.
Yeah, they keep stepping up.
And then Edith, it's like, okay, cool.
Aylesworth.
And then Aylesworth was like, now that was kind of symbolic because like,
yeah,
she's hated his guts pretty much the whole time. And even into season 4, like she was like, like there was only like one part where she sort of acknowledged that Uhtred was cool. She was like, remember when they were with Pure Leg in the woods, and she was like,
yeah,
I guess you are kind of good, and now like I guess the rest of us can notice that. And Pure Leg was like, we've all noticed that.
Yeah,
like we've all noticed it. So I mean, like
Aldhelm steps up,
and then Aldhelm too. Aldhelm is like, sorry, but I got to do this. And then he turns his head to Harry Gilby. He turns his head to Ethelstan.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think?
After a long pause, too. He's tapping his ring on the wooden arm of his throne, and we're all like thinking
in, season 4 too. He was like tapping the ring. It's kind of
and I'm thinking like, okay, maybe they're convincing him here. Maybe like he's gonna stand up and be like, we go to Bebbanburg. And he stands up and he says, Ethelstan, my boy, what do you have to say on the matter? And this is another cool moment from both sides, because Uhtred's immediately like, you do not have to answer that. And Edward's like, but yeah, he kind of does, because he might someday be king, which is like the first time I think that he's publicly said that there's a chance that Ethelstan, what some people think is a bastard son, even though technically he's not because it was in wedlock, could possibly be king. That's a powerful moment to me.
That was a pretty cool moment. And he ultimately says, I'm on Team Uhtred. Hashtag Team Uhtred.
He says hashtag Team Uhtred, and he steps back.
He steps over there. And then this is where I was thinking Edward's going to go Team Uhtred. And they're like, whether you want to be with us or not, we're going there. And you're just like, all right, Edward, I guess, like
you have to go.
Yeah. And he's like, do not forget the people I have crushed.
Yes.
Do not forget the Eldermen of Mercia. Do not forget Citrigir. Don't forget all the other fuckers I fucked up.
And he like sends his guards like around like all of the people we like in the show. Like all in one. It's like they've all teamed up together and Edward's now surrounded. And I'm frustrated because like I think the first time I watched the show, I was like, God damn it, Edward. And I am in this moment too. It's like, come on, let's go to Bebbanburg.
This is also kind of funny to me though, too, because again, Edward with like the king moments here, if you remember like Cersei from Game of Thrones, where she's just like, no, power is power. And she does that to Littlefinger. And she's like, oh, cut his throat. I changed my mind. Turn around. Like that was a really cool moment. And like, that's kind of what this felt like to me, is like, don't forget the people I've crushed. Like I'm not just some guy that 8 people can say no to, and like, oh no, 8 people said no to me. I have 3 kingdoms, bitch.
Yes. It's cool. It's cool.
But again, it is frustrating because I was hoping like, oh, here's this great, and this was a bro moment here, like this, all of them coming together, and they're like, Bember season finale, Bember season 5 finale. Like,
Edward's like anti-bro moment. I see your bro moment and I raise you a major anti-bro moment here. But no, it kind of unites them more. And also Finan sort of like antagonizes him a little bit. Like it's like that when you're losing a game and like that one kid on the other team trash talks you like, how's it going? How what's the scoreboard, bro? And Finan says that to him. He's like, I'm not sure things are going your way, Lord. when like everybody's like I think that's after Ethelstan sides
Yeah.
with Uhtred.
After everyone's standing over there, and it's just like, dude. But
Yeah.
like that's one thing I was thinking though too. Like it was like, oh wow, all the heavy hitters in the show. But at the same time, it's like that's 8 people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's 8 people.
And Edward's got like a whole army just surrounding this whole.
He's got 3 armies. He's got 3 kingdoms, and 8 people are like, we're doing it.
Yeah. I also like. I want to talk a little bit about what Ethelstan says too, because it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think what Edward said was like he could someday be the king that faces the Scots too. So is that some foreshadowing? We'll find out. He says to divide the lands, that's not unity,
Yeah.
And I don't know. To me, Ethelstan is he's very kingly already.
I think he's being very noble. He's more of
yes,
the traditional sort of king we see in other shows and movies like Aragon from Lord of the Rings, versus someone like most of the kings from this show, which I think is great because it kind of makes them feel a little more realistic how they're flawed. But he's noticing all these flaws, and he's raised by Uhtred, and he's just like, I want to be like the cool king. But
and
again,
he's raised by Uhtred, so he's perfect. So
he might change though. He might change. I don't know. I mean, like again, no spoilers. I mean, I don't know from this season or anything, but I mean, in the books, I can tell you he's a little different. Eventually, I think the crown goes to his head, but right now, it's like, I don't know what's going on. What he'll do.
By the way, we said it last episode late, and if you missed it, we'll say it again here. Edward's wearing Alfred's old crown. I don't know if it's the same exact crown. Maybe Alfred was buried in his crown. I don't know. But it looks like Alfred's crown. It's much different than what Edward was wearing in season 4. And it's so symbolic of like how Edward is freaking wielding his power this season.
And he's in control of his emotions now too. There was like a point in season 4 where you're like, oh, he's starting to wield it. And he does say, like, there's a great moment in one of those Mercian episodes where he's like, I am a king and I know how to wield my power or something like that. And he has like the 2 fingers. Yeah. And that was a great moment. But again, generally that season, even after that, he goes back to being very emotionally manipulated.
He loses freaking Winchester.
Yeah, he loses his Winchester. He's freaking out. He just like charges a gate and he's just
charging the walls. Yeah, he loses all control. He's just acting pure emotion.
So, but this season, like you said, like I think that is what they're trying to symbolize. He's in control now. Maybe this isn't the smart move right now, but again, Alfred didn't always make the smart move. That's why I always had Uhtred. But sometimes though, Alfred was the one making the smart move, but it was Uhtred who was getting shit canned for it, right? So. I think that's Edward's head right now is like, am I making a smart move? But
yeah, I mean, he even says like, I can't put Uhtred's ambition over the lives of my people, because he's kind of seeing it like, oh, well, Uhtred, now you want to take Bebbanburg. Now you want to help get Elfwin.
He's like, now you're a Saxon. Like,
now, yes, he says like
now you're a Saxon when you're going around doing pagan shit. And
he says, now finally
talking
you're
with
a
your
Saxon.
accent,
Amazing. Yeah.
That's where it ends, is he's got our favorite character surrounded, and it looks like, and he tells them like, you guys are leaving, you guys aren't leaving, you're staying overnight,
and he says if anybody leaves, like, you'll be penalty of execution. And Uhtred says to him like, well, if we delay, we'll lose our advantage, so you better choose. Episode 8, basically how the episode ends. Crazy scene, very memorable scene, I would say. I think this whole episode, that's kind of what boils down to me. Like, that was a scene that certainly stuck out to me at the end of the season.
That's what kept me from dipping like to a 7 all the way or below 7 with this episode, is one, the Ethelhelm moments when he was funny. Even though, again, I want Whitgard to be more of a boss right now. And then 2 was all the Bebbanburg hints here, all the, like we said, there's the irony going on. We know that Bebbanburg is the place to be. It's going to be what the Saxons want. Right. It's what Uhtred wants. It's what he needs for Stior. It's what he needs for his men. But like, he doesn't know yet. So like, it's so satisfying then when it's finally like, when Alhelm's like, oh, where did you say that was? And
I love that moment.
He's like, oh, this little place, little fort up north.
You probably never heard of it. Probably never heard of it.
It's like out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And I think that's cool too, that it's Benedict, because we know Benedict does not have a close like Like, look, if it was Pure League who was the one who brought him up there and came back, he literally been yelling, Uhtred, guess what? Guess what?
He would have been to the gates, sprinting. Like, remember when he was running to the Welsh in season 4, just the whole second half of the season, running up hills.
Jeez, the hill runs.
That would have been him just sprinting back. Bamba!
Uhtred there at Bebembo, let's go.
So yeah, but I mean that's the episode, and again those were the things, and then of course the ending. I loved how long that scene was too. They let those moments have their beats, with each character sticking up for Uhtred, meaning something, and then.
And I think in your head while it's happening, you're like, okay, this is how Edward is convinced to go to Bebembo.
And yeah, it's a little like, twist with Edward here.
Nope. Edward is not ready to go to Bebembo. So it's super cool episode. Frustrating, I think, because we all just want Edward to be like, yeah, take my entire army. Let's go take that shit and be done with it. All right.
Yes.
Let's end it in 9 episodes this season. But
record 9. 10th episode is just like Uhtred chilling in Bember. Just
it's a
just eating oranges.
I'd like an episode like that. Just
like not edited at all. Just Uhtred, like literally just the camera fixed in one spot. When Uhtred sits down, he's like eating. He gets up, he goes to the bathroom. We don't see where he goes for a bit. He comes back, he sits down.
Yeah, it's just like a security camera on the wall.
Yeah, that's what I want. That's what I wanted.
That's all I wanted this season. That's all I wanted this season. It's just like 8 hours of empty room, 5 minutes of conversation. They leave. Compared to the other episodes, it just doesn't feel like as much happened this episode.
Nah.
It was a good episode. It was a solid Last Kingdom episode.
I still enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. The acting was great.
Again, for other shows, though, you know, we talked about this before. Why we fell in love with the show is it never had build episodes. Definitely season 4 is the first time there was ever like build episodes.
Yeah, I would say so.
And then so there's only been maybe three or four this season out of 10, which isn't too bad. But again,
and I have to say, I think it kind of had to happen like that because of the quick transition. They need to make a transition from all the shit that happened in the first half of the season to a Bebember plot line.
Yeah.
Whereas like season 2, they could literally just do 4 episodes, cut, start a whole new adventure plot line in the second half, you know?
Yeah.
And that couldn't really happen, I don't think, this season.
No.
So I think they need to do that to make it seem like a natural transition, which they did well.
I thought they did well. And that's what it was. It was nice that Uhtred is conflicted about, like, does he want to do this? You know, so the payoff for him deciding that he wants to do it it's more satisfying. It's more natural.
Yeah. One other thing that happens this episode, very short scene, but it's another Constantine scene. Constantine's standing there with his arms crossed, talking with I think it's his men. I don't know if it's the other Lord of Mercia, but it's definitely people like that I think are in his inner circle. They're talking strategy, and his nephew is like, you know, I don't think it's smart to trust a guy that like betrayed his own king. And he's like, true, but what he offers is sound. And he's like, we do not alert Edward to our presence. He's kind of talking about the plan. We're going to go. And once we are all as one, we'll attack Edward. You know, they're still like, you know, we shouldn't always trust Ethelhelm. And he's like, look, I'll stand by it, my word, for as long as necessary. It's like, to me, Constantine being like that, it just makes him more of a threat. He's just like, I'll go back on my word if I have to, if it comes down to it.
Yeah. If
that was
things
cool.
don't go in his way.
So what was we already know your favorite bro moment.
Bro moment, definitely Pure Leg and Uhtred.
Yeah.
Hands down.
So since you take that one, which I think I would have taken, I'm going to take the other one just to highlight it. Just when everybody stands behind Uhtred.
Yeah.
Now, look, they're all doing it for different motives. We have to understand that. But I'm going to more specifically go with the theme of Finan and Sihtric, who before basically said, we don't want to go to Rumcover with you, but we will. Oh, by the way, in that scene too, Ethelstan basically is like, I want to go with you, Uhtred, but I also want to serve my father. And Uhtred's like, I get it. He's not mad at him for that. He's like, I understand. Like, you're going to be a freaking king.
Mm.
So I get it. That, and then when they're right behind him, like when the time to go, it's like, they're the boys. There are the boys. So going with that bro moment, sort of everyone getting behind Uhtred and Finan and Citric just being there for Uhtred 100%.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite overall moment?
It could be the moment at the end there with everyone coming together. I'm gonna have to go just say though the little music at the beginning with Ivor, John Loon, Uhtred finishing up the burial for Brita. Just some cool sort of Last Kingdom little tie-up stuff. I mean, it pretty much got resolved at the end of last episode, but it was still cool to just kind of get that little feeling there. Or I don't know, maybe like honestly too, just when Benedict was like, the little place up north, Bember.
That's what I was gonna pick.
So I'll go Brita then. I'll go Brita.
Okay, I'm gonna pick the one with Bebbanburg because that as a moment, a pure moment when Uhtred looks like, here we go.
And like me as an audience member, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting
like, for him to say it.
Say it.
Like, say ask him where he was. Ask him where he was, please. And he does. And it's like, here we go. We know. Like Uhtred's been saying, no, I'm not gonna help. No.
Son of a bitch, I'm in.
You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
You son of a bitch, I'm in. Again, it didn't happen like that. He had like a little bit of inner turmoil about choosing to do this, and he had to have an awesome Pure League talk. But that's my favorite moment. Good episode. 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10 for Steve.
That averages to a 7.25. See that math?
That's pretty good math.
Thanks.
Tell us your thoughts. What did you think of this episode? Did we rate it fairly? Do you think we rated it fairly, or were we stupid?
Were we really stupid? Be mean to us. I mean, we told you that one other episode to be mean to us, and like you guys have been like kind of passive aggressive. I want like straight coming at us stuff. Yeah. And, is that the best you can do? And then, but then the next 2 episodes, I want you to be nice to us again, okay? But this one, comments mean, make it mean.
Please be mean to us.
Be mean,
and
tell us what you thought. Best bro moments. What are your best bro moments? What are your favorite moments? Tell them in the comments down below. If you're watching or listening YouTube podcast, you can always check out the other one too. And it's like we always say, what did I call you again?
I can't remember.
Oh, Rimsky Biscuit. That's it. And it's like we always say, Rimsky Biscuit.
Goodbye. And destiny is on.